Once upon a time, there was a place that was neither land nor water, a place that breathes, yet stays perfectly silent. We grew up hearing that these places were dark, dangerous, maybe even haunted, and we were taught to fear them. Places in a wet twilight zone. We have many names for them: swamps, marshes, bogs, or fens. But what connects them? Science calls them peatlands. Places where water preserves plants as carbon-rich peat instead of letting them rot. Back then, we called them wastelands. About a decade ago, deep in the fog of a German peatland, I realized we'd been misled. I wasn't standing on a wasteland. I was standing on a gold mine of life. It wasn't dark or scary at all. The ground underneath my feet was alive, soft and breathing, covered in bright green moss that had water like a sponge, the air buzzing with dragonflies. It was a quiet masterpiece of life, building peat, storing carbon, centimeter for centimeter, year after year, and making room for the rare and resilient. Back then, I was just a geography student, and I had no clue that this quiet, damp ground would become the most important place in my life. And now, I need you to unlearn something too. If you've been told that forests are our biggest allies in the climate crisis, well, that's not the whole truth. Of course I love trees, but let's look at the data. Peatlands cover only 3% of the Earth's land surface. Yet, they store twice as much carbon as all the world's forests combined, and forests make up 30% of our planet. Think about that density. Peatlands are the heavyweights of carbon storage. A healthy peatland can store up to 4 times more carbon than a forest on the same size of land. And unlike forests, who store the peat above ground, peatlands bury it deep, where it stays for millennia. So peatland are the most space-efficient carbon vaults on Earth. No other ecosystem packs so much carbon into so little space, and they keep up adding more carbon every single year. But because they don't stand tall and majestic, because they work quietly beneath our feet, we have ignored them. Or even worse, we have destroyed them. And globally, wetlands, including peatlands, are among the most threatened ecosystems on our planet. And we're losing them at a very alarming rate, much, much faster than we lose our forests. And when we drain them, we pull the pin on a carbon bomb. What we see here is large-scale peat extraction. Thousands of years of stored carbon are released into the atmosphere at once. And by now, we all know what that means for our climate. But before I could understand the tragedy, I had to understand the hero. And every mission needs one. Mine is peat moss, sphagnum. It looks humble, but it's nature's most elegant high-tech. It has 3 superpowers we cannot replicate. It's a sponge. It can hold up to 40 times its weight in water, managing floods and droughts. It absorbs huge amounts of rainwater, flattens flood peaks, and keeps moisture in the ground long after the rain has stopped. So it's turning whole catchments into softer, more forgiving systems. Second, it's a mirror. A living sphagnum carpet is already bright and reflective, but when it dries, it turns pale. Like polar ice, it's reflecting the sunlight, cooling the surface instead of heating up. So on the scale of a whole peatland, this subtle optic trick helps to cool down the landscape while the peat below is locked away. It's climate regulation from above and below. And third, it is immortal. So if it dries, it doesn't die. Its living cells can shut down completely, waiting. And many species survive droughts that would kill almost anything else. And they come back to life once water returns. So in a world of climate extreme, this doesn't fight variability, it absorbs it, turning short-term shocks into long-term stability. So this tiny little plant is what resilience looks like. I became obsessed. I studied places with names like Moor or Marsh, but when I got there, the peatlands were gone, replaced by dry agricultural fields and drainage pipes. Back then, draining peatlands made sense. They were seen as barren wastelands, blocking fertile farmland and fuel for the fire. Every ditch meant potatoes, timber, peat bricks, survival in a hungry, cold world. But today, that logic has collapsed. What once was a need is now a threat. And today, the damage is already done. Here in Austria, today, we have destroyed 90% of our peatlands. And they emit to 6% of the national greenhouse gas emissions. And that is more than all the cars on Austrian roads combined. So I went further researching wetlands, and I searched for the last intact wetlands on Earth. But theory can only take you so far. So I needed to see why wetlands matter, not on paper, but in the real world. And together with my partner, I chose a different path. We quit our jobs, said goodbye to our apartment, and squeezed our whole world into this tiny little truck. And together, we traveled the world. We started with the vast Canadian boreal peatlands. We saw the mighty swamps in the United States, the wild mangroves in Mexico, to the high Andean Paramo peatlands in Ecuador. And then we traveled all the way down to the windswept plains of Tierra del Fuego in Patagonia. And it was a wild expedition, exploring some of these last intact wetlands on Earth. But we didn't just go there to see, we went to document. We brought our cameras to capture the fading beauty of these places before they might be gone. And just when I was about to lose hope for the peatlands back home, something happened I hadn't planned for. Fate had bigger plans. I became pregnant. And it was completely unexpected in the middle of nowhere. And after years of being told my husband was infertile, this felt like nature itself was showing us what regeneration looked like. And just like the peatlands back home that were written off as degraded beyond repair, I realized something profound. Ecosystems thought dead can come back to life. Human stories thought finished can have magical second chapters. It wasn't about research anymore. Now it was about legacy. It was about the bridge of the immortality of my little peat moss and the fragile new life I was carrying. And I realized if these places, our planet's hidden lungs, are suffocating, my child would be the one gasping for air. And that's when my curiosity turned into a mission. And meanwhile, the world is obsessed with another mission: colonizing a red, lifeless planet. Why chase Mars if we haven't learned to protect the perfect paradise we already have? So instead of betting on a mission to Mars, I am betting on a mission to Marsh. Because we don't need to invent machines to suck carbon out of the air. We don't need to terraform a distant, lifeless rock. We just need to stop breaking the perfect systems we already have. And we don't need high tech. We need the most climate-efficient technology Earth has ever built. And I set out 10 years ago looking for adventure. But I found purpose. And the good news is we can bring these places back. Destroyed wetlands can be restored. They are just waiting for us to add water. And we're not protecting the swamp. We're saving Earth's quietest superpowers. And by keeping these places alive, it's not the marsh we save. We're saving the loudest, most beautiful thing we have: life itself. But there's one more thing. You don't need a spaceship to explore. You don't need billions of dollars. You just need a simple pair of rubber boots. So, go out, visit a wetland, and get your feet dirty, and see why our future is wet. Thank you.